So we have three guests
Three.
today. I'll introduce each one of them and then I'll introduce them one at a time. But the three guests are Hanna Snedecor, Nicole Briscoe, and Alisha Wetzel. And so Hanna Snedecor, she first started her career in college as a game day operations intern for the Lafayette Aviators in the Prospect League, and she's learning how to manage a box office and following through on in-game promotions. Next, she was a promotions and entertainment intern at the Kalamazoo Growlers of the Northwoods League. Then she graduated from Carthage College, taking on an account executive role for the Rockford Rivets. Then she was promoted to Director of Community Affairs and Promotions. And then this year, she was promoted to Assistant General Manager of the Rockford Rivets. Which is pretty exciting. She oversees travel logistics for visiting teams and umpires, organizing sponsorships and partnerships, helping plan ticket goals and theme nights and station operations. Uniquely, again, one of the things I asked each of my peeps is give me something that's not written in there. And so she was introduced to sports through NASCAR, which I think is pretty cool because then that's a connection with our next guest, our next person. And she interned, I can't read my writing. She interned a championship for the Northwoods Leagues, and she loves to read in the off season. I can tell you that Hanna doesn't really have an off season. And when she's on season, she's crazy honking busy. She is someone that I partner with on a lot of things. So Hanna is our first panel person. And our second panel person is, so Hanna waves so they know it's you. Okay, good. It must be a cap day. I should go put a cap on because Nicole Briscoe is our second panelist. And Nicole became an ESPN SportsCenter anchor in her earlier life. So she's pretty young anyway. So we won't go how young you are, Nicole, because you still match with these people, okay? And she's covered NASCAR for ESPN from her early starts in her life, and she currently covers Formula One. She started a career a few years ago, and she was a general assignment reporter at WREX TV in Rockford, another Rockfordian, and while she was in college. And she was at Fort Wayne, Indiana, Indianapolis, where she covered the Indianapolis Colts, the Pacers, and the Indy 500 before moving on to the Speed Channel. You can kind of see she's kind of speedy here. She is an avid runner. She's run 2 New York marathons, the Boston Marathon and the Chicago Marathon. She's married to Ryan Briscoe, and she has 2 wonderful young ladies. And I've known Nicole for a few years now, also as part of being part of the Founders Commission and as a diamond of Rockford. A fun fact about Nicole is that she would rather walk through a room full of Legos barefoot than provide fun facts about herself. So wave Nicole. And then our third guest is Alisha Wetzel. I know you're here. There you are, wave. So Alisha Wetzel, and again, really cool. She is a finance coordinator for Fans First Entertainment from Pittsburgh, PA, and has been with them for 4 seasons. She assists the World Tour and Entertainment departments with their budgets for the Savannah Banana Ball World Tour, which is really buzzing, right? On game days, Alisha supports the merch and F&B operation. She's passionate about creating memories, which is one of my favorite things, is how do we create memories in what we're doing and connecting with fans. When she isn't traveling with the team, she can be found at a Pilates or the beach. So Alisha, again, her fun fact, she has traveled to over 60 cities while working for the Savannah Bananas, as well as working with the Banana Land at Sea Cruise. What a cool job you have. And she loves Audrey Hepburn movies. So I'd like to welcome the 3 of you. And even though I did give you questions and things like that I'd like to talk about, I'd like to know what drew you to your career, where you're at right now. So let's start with I want to go in alphabetical. We'll start with Nicole, not age first, but alphabetical. So we'll go Nicole, then Hannah, then Alisha.
I just want to be clear, I'm drinking a root beer, not an actual beer, by the way.
Eh,
What drew me to sports, honestly, was probably my family. Um, I grew up in Wisconsin and Illinois. And most of my family is from Wisconsin. And it's like you cut into my mom, she probably bleeds green and gold. So every weekend with my family, it was like, where are we watching the Packers game? Well, and I think and it truly was an every weekend event. Was it at my grandmother's house? Was it at our house? Was it at my cousin's house? And I think my love of sports sort of became, it started with like the family connection. Um, and I just saw someone say, "Go Pack, go." If they score again, let me know. Um, but it kind of started with that. And as I got older, then I started paying more attention to the games. And then my dad took me to Wrigley Field when I was 8. And, that was probably more of like a daddy-daughter date. And my memories there of that very first game aren't of who they played or even if they won. I couldn't tell you, but I remember everything else about that day. So I think if you go back and you really look at how like my foundation was built, it does start with family. And then like once you get into your career, it's sort of like opportunities present themselves and you say yes. Like I know you talked about me doing motorsports. It's really been a big portion of my career. But if you had said to me 10, 15 years ago, you're going to spend this much time in motorsports, I would have said that makes zero sense. I don't believe you. But it's a matter of saying yes to opportunities. And then when one door opens, you sort of take advantage of it and you see where it takes you. Um, and that's between family and saying yes to opportunities that here we are. That's where we are.
Beautiful. Do you speed?
What was that? Do I
Do you
speed?
speed?
No. Are there any police officers? I unfortunately, yes, occasionally. I've been trying to be better about it, but you have to remember who I'm married to.
I know.
And I think it's like a family hazard, but I'm better about it now.
Thank you. Hannah.
All right. So how I got integrated into sports and how I found out I could even do this for a living was actually my dad took myself and my younger sister to our first NASCAR race at Chicagoland Speedway in Joliet. So they're bringing the races back there this next year, which is phenomenal. Super excited for that. But that was the first race I got to see some really influential racers from my time. So like Dale Jr., Jeff Gordon was still racing then. So getting to see those guys that I grew up watching was really just an emotional thing for me. So I was like, wow, this is really cool. So I knew I had that passion for it. Then when I was growing up in like middle school and in high school, I was more of the like fine arts and theater and choir kid. So didn't really mix and mingle much with the sports kids. I had some friends that played sports, but didn't really do any of the sports stuff in school. And then my senior year, I got convinced to become a manager for the track team. And so got to do that, got a gym waiver, so I didn't have to do PE my last like semester of high school, which was pretty nice. But then started to do all the administrative stuff, so helping make sure that we had enough snacks for the guys and girls whenever we'd go to track meets. Making sure that I was taking accurate times or distances or heights for anything that they were doing. My my job would kind of switch depending on the meet and where they needed me. But I kind of got to see the behind the scenes administrative stuff. So that's kind of really what got me into it. And then I found out I could, make some money doing sports. So I absolutely, once I found out about that, I originally was going to be a high school English teacher because I love to read. And then when I decided to go into, or when I found out I could go into sports full time as a career, I jumped head first in and been kind of building up my career ever or my repertoire and my resume since then.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you. Alisha.
So growing up, I've always been into sports, like did dance, gymnastics, softball, and I was really intrigued in player data analytics for MLB specifically. So going into college, I majored in mathematics, minored in stats with the goal of doing player data analytics for an MLB team. Added a sport management minor later on and started working with our athletic communication department. I worked pretty much all of our college sports teams that we had, mainly the baseball games too. I did all of their stats and was really focused on that. But then got the internship opportunity with the Bananas in the finance department, took that and haven't looked back since. So that's been great. But I've always had an interest in sports and specifically working in baseball.
Excellent. Excellent. So we talk about your career path. We talk about your little bit your motivation. I want to know what steps did you take to get where you are today, and then talk about your current role in each of you is doing something so unique. So talk about your current role and how it contributes to the success of your, whether it's your program or your team or whichever you have. Let's start with again. So I'll start with Hannah this time, and then Alisha, and then Nicole.
So for my current role, I kind of do a little bit of everything. So helping with ordering all of our field maintenance stuff. So turfus, chalk, grass seed and everything like that. New uniforms, bats, balls, to making sure that we have the stuff that we are able to make sure that we're able to play a game. I'm also in charge of, like I said, in my bio, the travel logistics for the team. So making sure any away team and umpire has a hotel that if they need it for that night. So getting 16 hotel nights are not exactly the easiest things sometimes. So, figuring out those kinds of plans and everything, busing logistics as well too, figuring out timing for those. And then really building with our partners, our partnerships and our deals that we have kind of going on. So we're working with, obviously IWBC because we're hosting the Women's Baseball World Cup next year, which is super exciting. So getting to kind of be a part of that conversation is really exciting. But yeah, day-to-day stuff. It's really making sure my sales staff feels supported. And if they are struggling with anything, what can I help with? Making sure the marketing staff is staying on top of social media posts and covering, making sure that we're following through on, certain contracts if we have to post a story versus an actual post on Instagram, stuff like that. Operations, making sure that they have everything that they need in order to make our ball field look pretty. And then how it contributes to like the success of the team both on and off the field. If we don't have obviously like a lot of that stuff going on, if we don't have the cooperation of our marketing team working with the interns to follow through on some sponsorship stuff, then those sponsors aren't going to come back. They're not going to be happy, and then they're going to go somewhere else and choose to spend their money elsewhere. So there's that. Tickets. If we don't have people selling tickets, we're going to have an empty ballpark, no butts and seats, and that's not viable as a business. We're really a business first, but as a business, we do provide some really family fun entertainment. So, and then on the field, obviously, we want to make sure our guys have a really nice field to be playing on. There's some definitely, I've seen a bunch of different fields in the Northwoods League, and they're all very unique and different in their own ways. Rockford was known as the ones with a bunch of lips in their fields for a while, so we got those fixed now, thank goodness. So it's just making sure that we have a proper playing space for all of our players and teams that come on through during the season.
Emily Hawks, maybe we call chaperones nowadays assistant GMs. So, Alisha.
So, in the finance department, we have two different sides. I am really in charge of the diamond side, which is more everything that goes on with the show on the field. And then Amanda, who I work with, she focuses on the dugout side, which is more behind the scenes, merchandise, warehouse, CapEx projects. So I focus a lot with the World Tour team, like I was saying. So all the hotels, buses, all of that, I help with those payments and making sure that that department stays on budget and we're on track and we're not blowing the budget out, and then we're not going to have money for the hotels at the end of the year. So we have monthly meetings with them, keeping them on track. And then the entertainment department, I work with very closely with a girl named Caroline. Her and I go over the budget every month as well. And same thing like with doing payments and stuff, the band uniforms, all the different stuff they need, cryo, if they have fireworks for the game one night. And then I also work with the baseball team, their uniforms, anything that they need. A lot of the stuff, though, they can put on credit cards, which is nice. So that automatically gets done. But any invoices, I do all of that. And then during the games, I focus more on the merchandise operations, the point of sales, and some of the internet. So I've learned a little bit IT work there too. So that's been really fun. And kind of just going on with like the how it works on the field, everything. If we don't get some of that stuff, we want to make sure we have the best experience and the best show for our fans. So making sure we have everything we need and that everything can go great. And same with off the field, like we're like they're our first fans are the employees, so we want to make sure they're well taken care of, because if they're well taken care of, we're going to take care of the fans really well. So making sure the hotel accommodations are good, flights are good. We do have some early flights. I was on a 5:30 a.m. flight this morning, but sometimes that's just how it happens. But they do very well on taking care of us with all of that. So I can help support those different departments with them making sure we have everything we need for the show and everything else that we have going on.
You both are Jills of all trades, right? Bet you
Yeah.
never knew you had to be an IT person or a turf person. We talked about groundskeeping yesterday, so very interesting. Thank you. Nicole.
I mean, I think my job is very different from what you two ladies do. I mean, I'm a very small cog in a lot of ways in a large machine, because obviously I work for ESPN and Disney and everything that that means. I host a show, and I host one of many shows that's on TV on our network on a daily basis. So what I bring to the table is a little different than what maybe somebody does if they were in charge of sort of like the whole operation. But I work for a company that just in Connecticut is, 5,000 people strong. But the people who work on my show, we maybe just 30 people. Um, Obviously I have to be able to speak for a living. I have to watch sports. But I think the one thing that sort of connects the dots for all of us is there's like an entertainment value to what we do. And the biggest part of my job is, one, you're informing people, you're telling them what happened. And the idea for us is, tell me something I don't already know. We live in a world where you've got everything right here on your phone. And so when I go on the air at night, for the majority of the games that we're talking about, I have to assume that you know who won. I have to assume that you've seen even the most prolific highlights from that game. You've seen it. So it's my job to tell you why they matter. It's my job to give you additional context. It's my job to make you feel like when you're sitting in a bar and you're listening to two intelligent friends yammer on at the end of the bar, that like that's what we are. And it's like an entertaining conversation. And it's my job even to make you feel through this small box, however it is that you're watching us, whether it's on your phone or your computer or your TV. It's my job to make you feel like you're connected to me or connected to the show in a way that makes you want to stick around. For us, everything that we do is essentially set up on quarter hours. You don't want to be in commercial break at the top of the hour. You don't want to be in commercial break at the bottom of the hour. Our research says that people only watch for 9 minutes at a time. So how can we get you to stick around for 10? How can we get you to stick around through a commercial break? What can we say? What can we do that keeps you invested in the show for a longer period of time? Those are some of like the nuances that kind of go with what we do. The business, I'm obviously significantly older than you guys. The business has changed a lot since I first got involved. When I was working in Rockford, I was a child, and I couldn't honestly tell you how those things came about. But I remember when I was working in Indianapolis, it was presented to me then. And that was at the beginning of the 24-hour news cycle of tell me something I don't already know. Um, and that has grown and changed, and how we watch and our sort of ADHD society has impacted a lot of those things and how we present things as well over time. So part of my job is also being adaptable and being willing to change and grow as the world around me is changing and growing. Um, I do think it's interesting, and this is sort of a realization that I've had in the last, I'll give it 5 years. And I think about you two, Alisha and Hanna, a little bit. I got into the career that I got into because I loved sports. And it was presented to me by my mom one day as, look, that's something you could do. And at the time, it was like Hannah Storm, who I still work with, which is kind of amazing to me. But Hannah Storm and Leslie Visser, those were my examples of if you see it, you can believe it. There is part of me now at the age of 45 where I see women on the sidelines, whether they're in the coaching staffs or if they are on the medical teams or if they're roughing games. There's part of me that I wonder if that was the world that I grew up in at the age of 11 or 12, if maybe my aspirations would have been different. But in the world of see it, believe it, my options looked a little different. Um, or at least that's how it was presented to me. So those are things that I think about now too. Um, I don't know. I think that's about it.
Well said. Thank you. Thank you. Just a few years difference. That's all. Just a few. So,
They could technically be
um,
to their parent, their moms. I don't know. Maybe.
so let's talk a little bit more. I like how you kind of segued into my next question, which is when you think about challenges to break into your jobs. I want you to think about what were some of the biggest challenges you faced entering and growing in this industry that can be challenging for women, and how did you overcome them? So think about it in that sense. So we'll go to Alisha first because you get to be first. How's that?
Sounds good. So I feel like I kind of had it a little bit lucky for me. Over half of our staff in the front office is women, and we have the head coach for the firefighters is a woman. We have some girls on each team, and so our organization, luckily, I haven't had too many challenges with it. But like overall, it's been pretty good getting into the organization. Finance too is also more of a male dominated area as well. So it's like working with like a lot of males, especially in the settlement process, because we do stuff with the different venues. There's like different things that they end up paying for, like security, but we cover it, so we pay them for it, different stuff like that. But yeah, I don't know. I haven't really had too many challenges in that aspect of being a woman, just because like our organization has been so welcoming to women working for the organization and supportive of that.
Thank you. Thank you. Nicole.
Um, Obviously, I'm only in this position because I'm pretty. I hear that on a daily basis. And as I look at myself now, I'm like, really? Um, the number of times in my life that I have been told, you know nothing about sports. You're only in that position because you have boobs. You're only in that position because you're pretty. I still hear that on a daily basis. So I think one of the things that is almost an obstacle, I think, in my line of work, and it could have been more of an obstacle, maybe 10, 15 years ago, was the ability to tune some of that stuff out, have thick skin, and realize, no, I do know what I'm doing. And I'm not going to let those voices creep in. I do know what I'm doing. I do belong here. I should have a seat at the table. And then when I do get the seat at the table, not only am I just sitting at the table, I'm taking up space and making my voice heard, to have the confidence to do that. And all of those things, I think there's a general concept of finding your voice, and I think that that can exist in all careers. It's sometimes it's a literal thing in our career, in my career, how you want to sound, how you want to be heard. But I think for women in general, the idea of finding your voice and knowing how you want to present yourself is really important, and it requires being comfortable enough in your own skin and knowing exactly who you are. And that doesn't happen overnight. That does take time. And that does take confidence. And some people have more confidence when they're younger, and some people take time to grow into that and to develop into that. And sometimes it requires people around you to say, I believe in you. I'm going to give you this opportunity because I believe in you. And then you make the most of those opportunities, and then your confidence starts to grow, and it sort of just steamrolls from there. Um, I don't know if that is, I broke into I started working, shit, I was in Fort Wayne, or not start for Fort Wayne. I left Rockford for Fort Wayne when I was 21. I had been on TV for 2.5 years at that point. I think I first thing I did on TV in Rockford was when I was 19, which is absurd. Because like, who the hell's going to listen to a 19-year-old covering like the stuff that I covered? Yeah, we did. Um, so I started at a time when maybe there weren't a ton of women in sports, but now there are. Um, so that part of it has changed, but there's still a lot of sexism and misogyny and things like that out there. it's making the choice to not listen to it and realizing that sounds more like a them problem or a you problem than it is a me problem. But again, that comes back to confidence and time and being completely comfortable with who I am. I'm not here. I've gotten to a point in my career and in my life, to be honest, where I realize I'm not going to be everyone's cup of tea, and that's absolutely fine. Um, but I'm not going to change myself to fit your narrative. I'm going to just be who I am and just be comfortable and confident in that. Because I can go to bed at that. I can go to bed and sleep at night knowing that I'm okay. Um, and so when I look back at some of the things that have happened in my career, I think that's the general theme. That's usually the hardship that comes that's where that's kind of based in.
Thank you. Thank you. Hanna.
So for me, just like Nicole, really, a lot of the sexism is that I first experienced the first time I did an internship, or just even working for, like I worked for my college's football team even for a little bit too. And when I first started showing up and helping with recruitment and for tours for the athletes and then their families and parents and everything like that. It was a lot of, oh, I got a lot of side eyes. I didn't really make any friends at first doing it. I was just kind of there to do my job, get paid, and then go home. That was pretty much it. But yeah, a lot of the times, like I've had multiple people have asked me in years prior, oh, well, or just say to me even like, oh, you're just getting into your positions because of, you're a girl and you probably want to get with some of the players and everything like that. Like I laugh. It's hilarious sometimes because it's like, no, I don't. I really just really like sports. I know that can be shocking coming from a woman, but I do really just like sports enough to just want to work in it every day. So trying to combat that by, even just raising awareness to both girls that are going into the sports industry, but also guys too, to kind of educate them of like, hey, sexism still happens like every single day in our industry, unfortunately. Not necessarily to myself, because the Rivets right now we're awesome. But we have a strongly female dominant office as well too, just like the Bananas, which is great to hear. So I'm getting to kind of fight those stereotypes, like with having like a very strong female front office is a very empowering thing. Also be like Nicole, you said something that really resonated with me with like being put into a position to succeed and to do really well, to build your confidence and everything. I've been very, very lucky to have gotten that from the owners of the Rivets. And so that's what I've been just kind of doing. And I mean, I had no idea that I was going to be doing any of those things with, doing travel plans or hotels or sponsors or anything like that until middle of January this past year. So I've been doing it for less than a year and kind of figured it out a decent amount. But yeah, so kind of just doing those things to build my confidence has been a very important thing. So finding those things that you might not even think that you're good at, and even asking for help for those. Asking other women. I try to connect with as many women in the sports industry as possible. So Alisha, Nicole, I'll be sending you guys LinkedIn connections later.
I'm not on LinkedIn. Just so
Oh,
you
you're
know.
not?
You're gonna have
Okay,
to email me like a normal person.
perfect. That works too.
Okay.
But
But I think that's the thing. Like the number of times in my career where like or even just in life where I'm like, well, I'm a Packers fan or I'm a Cubs fan. And the response is being asked to then justify my knowledge or justify why I'm that. And the thing is, if a random dude asked that, would you ask them to justify their fandom? And no, the answer to that is no. And I do think that a lot of times that still does exist. And sometimes when men say it, they don't even realize that that is rooted in sexism. There's an ignorance to that question. There are ways to have conversations about how women get into sports and what drives them without having the base of it be just like, well, what do you know about that? We had a thing in our company fairly recently where one of our analysts said something to the effect of that person doesn't know the game because they don't play or they never played. Bullshit. I'm just going to say it. Bullshit. And I had to work with him the week after and I called him out on it. I was like, you can't ever say that to me. Because yes, I don't know what it's like to take a hit on the football field, but there are other things that I can bring to the table that you can't. And when we work together, we are a better team. So don't sit there and tell me that I don't know what I'm talking about just because I never played. And I shouldn't be in that position. None of us should be in that position. So unfortunately, those things still exist. We just have to go about our business and be strong enough to handle those things. The unfortunate side of it is our margin for error will forever be smaller than it is for a man in the business. Um, if I make a mistake on air, if my coworker makes a mistake, if we make the exact same mistake, I would be willing to bet he just made a mistake, but I don't know what I'm talking about. And so I am aware of that, and I try to make sure that I don't do that. But those are the unfair standards that we live in. And that's also what makes it difficult at times to put yourself out there and say yes to an opportunity that maybe you don't feel 100% confident in because you feel like your own margin is smaller. So if you make a mistake in something new outside of your comfort zone, you feel like it might be an opportunity where you can't walk it back. You may dig yourself a hole and you will never get the other opportunity to do that again. So you have to figure out your own balance in that way. I will say this, in my career, the most sexist environment that I've ever worked in has been in baseball. And I find that really unfortunate because I, for one, like I love baseball. I'm a massive baseball person. Um, I have found working in baseball to be the least enjoyable. And that kills me every time I encounter that. But the most blatant sexism I have ever, I think, encountered has been in baseball.
But you can throw a pitch.
I was nervous and it wasn't great, but I didn't bounce it. And it was from
She
the
threw
right.
out the first pitch at Wrigley Field last month, so so yes,
That was cool.
I was there to experience it. So thank you. So, bouncing off of that, thinking about social support, what kind of support do you get? Who's your mentor? Who do you network with? I know probably what policies, but what helps you to maintain balance and thrive professionally? And I'll just open it up. Whoever wants to go first, go first.
Okay, I'll be the brave one. Obviously, my family, they hold me up. They're the ones that I talk to at the end of the day, or like my husband, my parents, my best friend, those sorts of things. There are people who I work with on a daily basis. They're like part of our team, our show. Um, they're the people that I lean on. I do not. I don't say this lightly, but I feel a little more like I have the comfort of being the age that I'm at now. And I have the comfort of feeling like I know exactly who I am. That some of the stuff that maybe I would have relied on people for in the past, I don't feel like I necessarily need to do that. I've gotten really good at like, today wasn't my best show. Oh well, I'm gonna go home and go to bed and be just fine about it. And you can live another day and you just kind of let it roll off. I think it's more important in life to have your people for other things and to realize that like your work is great and it's how you make your living and it's how you pay your bills and provide your family with the life that they have. But at the end of the day, it doesn't define you. There are so many other things in your life that define you. Um, and I've been able to get to that point in my life where if I have a bad show, fine, I let it roll off. But if I said something stupid to my 11-year-old and I hurt her feelings, or I wonder if I handled a situation the best that I possibly could, that will keep me up at night. But like the work stuff won't anymore.
Thank you.
I can go next. So my support, I would say, heavily comes from my family and then some of my sorority sisters from school when I graduated from there. Um, and then my mentors, one of them is Todd Closso, the owner of the Rockford Rivets. And another one is actually the owner of another Northwoods League team, Brian Colopy, the owner of the Growlers, who I used to intern for. And then I think the other biggest supporter I think the biggest supporter out of all of them so far has been my professor, Carter Rockhill from Carthage. I got to help him and my old sports management professor from there, Greg Barron, build the sports management master's program there, which was really special to be a part of, especially when I was a sophomore, junior in college, getting to help build a master's program when I didn't even finish my bachelor's yet. I'm like, what am I doing? Like, but super fun. And I still call a lot of those people regularly to catch up, keep them in the loop about what's going on with, the rivets and my career outside of it and what kind of fun things I'm doing at the ballpark this off season that we're planning on doing, stuff like that. So but just also leaning on them for support too of, hey, I need advice on how to plan hotels. How do I do that? And getting every single time I've asked for help from people, they've been more than willing to help, which has been very, very nice. So building your network is super important. Going to any kind of networking events is really important too, at least for myself. Maybe not for everybody, but for me, at least it was really helpful. Um, so yeah, just kind of keeping a good connection and keeping in touch with people that you want to build a meaningful relationship with.
Thank you. Alisha.
So along with everybody else, my family has been a big support. They're great. My dad's also in finance, so anytime I have a finance related question, I can usually ask him and he knows. So that's great. And they'll come on to some of the road games too to support because it's nice because I'm currently like 12 hours behind, or 12 hours from them. So it's nice to get to see them. They're supportive of what I do. And our VP of finance also has been great too. A fun fact, I actually kind of trained him whenever he started here. I ran the finance department as an intern for like 3, 4 months, which is kind of crazy to think about that. But so he's been great. Anytime like something comes up, I can always go to him and count on him to help me through stuff. And along with Hannah, like my professors, I still keep in touch with them. They're great to help out anytime I need advice or if there's any opportunities. It's kind of great to be able to go back and forth with them, being able to help them out, being with the Bananas, anything I can do for them, along with, if we need game day teammates somewhere, they have students that'll come and support in that way, which is great.
That's so awesome. What Maureen asked a question, so I have questions, but I'll ask their questions. So what have you not yet done that you have your eye on for the future? This is for everybody.
I think I have my answer actually.
I know you do, but I'd like to hear it.
So mine would be to open a team of my own. So at Carthage, you have to write a senior thesis, it's about a 30 to 40 page research paper. So and since I was a business major, since we didn't have a sports management or marketing undergrad degree, I just did the business management one. Opening a business. So I decided to open a Northwoods League team in Naperville, Illinois, because I grew up there. So getting to kind of pass that out to certain people, that was when I called Brian over in Kalamazoo and see, hey, how did you buy the growlers at some point? Like, what would you do? What would be the steps that you take? And kind of building my senior thesis off of those was super fun. But I'm kind of keeping that plan as blueprints. Most people didn't know that when I was doing that it was going to be a blueprint of what I want to do one day. If not in Naperville, okay, great. I got some other cities that I want to go to as well. So very excited for it. I know I'm going to need a lot of money for it. So I'm just kind of saving up for that. But I'm super excited to, hopefully bring that to fruition at some point.
Mine are all non-professional things, honestly, at this point. Most of the decisions I've been making in my career for the last handful of years have not necessarily been about me anyway. I make decisions now based on, like, my daughters are 11 and 9. And my decisions now are about making sure that they're happy, healthy, and secure and are given the best possible life. And don't get me wrong, my kids, like, if you want to come back as something in your future, you probably want to come back as my kids or my dogs. Let's be honest here. But every decision I make is about making sure that they are in the best possible situation that they can be in and like raising non-assholes. That's what I want. Like me personally, I think I would like to train for a half Ironman. You know, I'm it's stuff like that at this point. Like if the last thing I do professionally is host Sports Center, I think I've done okay for myself. I've lived a good life. I have a decent, I never sleep, but that's kind of normal, I guess, for most moms at this point. But I have a decent work-life balance. Um, and those are the things that I value the most now in life. So I think when like I think about what's next professionally, because it's changing so much, I feel like I don't want to limit myself and be like, that's something I want to do, or like what's next for me might actually be something that doesn't even exist or hasn't even come across my radar yet. And that kind of goes back to like, did I think I was going to spend 10 years in NASCAR? No, I didn't. That didn't make any sense. So I never want to think of myself as saying like, I don't want to do something or I'm never going to do that, because God only knows what's going to happen. So most of the things that I want to do, I think are just like personal goals and things like that. So I think number one on them right now is not die on the swim and figure out how to do a half Ironman. And
So
no, I don't want to do it in Rockford before
come
anyone says
on.
that.
It's going to be a clean river.
I don't want to do it in Rockford. I want to do it someplace in like the Pacific Northwest. And yes, it'll be a river swim because the swimming is my worst thing. And I just want it to be able to like push me downstream. So if I need to, I don't even have to swim. I can just do like that. So yeah, there we
Thank
go.
you.
That's me.
Alisha.
So I also like I would like to stay with the bananas for the foreseeable future. We have some great plans that'll be rolling out. So I'm excited to see where that goes and how my role will change and evolve with that. But Jesse has some crazy ideas, as if you guys have seen stuff with Banana Ball and wanting to create like a Banana Land, more like a Disney World version. So I'm just excited to see how my role changes in the future. I still would like to work in the finance realm of things, but also a little bit more like probably more personal stuff too. I was like, I would like to get a little bit more of the work-life balance because the past 3 years have been insane. I traveled everywhere for the 2023 World Tour. There was a month I was home for literally 4 days. So as we're growing and hiring more people, we're starting to be able to take weeks off. And so I traveled a lot less this year, and hopefully next year can continue on that path of a good work-life balance. So that's what I'm kind of looking forward to now, rather than being on the road every single weekend and trying to keep up with office work while also being on the road. So excited to see where that goes in the future.
I was hoping to get to that question about work-life balance, but I can do that in a minute. I like these other questions popping in, and so I'm just going to put my questions aside and ask. So Tracy asks, Nicole and Alisha, you both work in areas that have been the subject of documentaries, reality shows, Bananas on ESPN, F1 on Netflix. How has having worked in the world impact having those, how has having those in the world impacted your work?
I mean, for me, it doesn't change anything. I think the only thing that changed, like the Netflix series Drive to Survive, I think it just brought more eyes to Formula One. You know, that really hit or began spiking in 2020 when we were all finding the end of Netflix because we had nothing better to do, which is why we also watched Tiger King and all those horrible documentaries that we all watched. But like we found the end of Netflix, and with that, because at that point, Drive to Survive had already been out a couple of seasons, and so that began like this steamrolling thing. Formula One should have been more popular in the U.S. before it was anyway. Um, it doesn't like that's not my job. Like it's a sport that is featured on, but like there's also Hard Knocks. So it's just extra eyeballs in a different way. I think if I worked for Formula One, maybe I would feel differently about it, but I don't work for Formula One. So again, it's just sort of like, it's just another way for people to watch and know about it.
Yeah, and so kind of with me, whenever I started, we were still in the CPL, which is the College Summer League team, and they did the first documentary for the miniature 2022 tour. So they had already done that before I started. And then for the 2023 season, there's just camera crews around all the time filming different stuff. So it was a little bit strange going into that first, just having camera crews around. But the Bananas games have been on ESPN. We've had deals with True TV and quite a few other people. We don't personally like pay for marketing for different stuff. So we've had like deals with the different TV series or different TV channels to get our shows on those channels rather than just YouTube, which has been really good to help get like the name out. And the guys just went on the Tonight Show and the Today Show while we were up in New York and different stuff. So kind of just getting into different outlets, media outlets of different crowds and groups of people that wouldn't be on like TikTok and Instagram. So we're reaching a wider variety of people now, which I think is really growing the brand.
It's so interesting. That's so interesting.
Can I make a comment?
Yeah.
I think the work-life balance thing, I do want to make a comment about
Let's
that.
talk
'Cause
about
I do
it.
think that that is something that women are asked about more than men are asked about. And that drives me insane a little bit because at the end of the day, we all have the same sort of thing. You know, let's just take my house, for example. I've been married for almost 16 years. We have 2 kids. My husband, when he's working, he's traveling. So he's working and traveling and missing things the same amount that I'm working and traveling and missing things. So the concept of work-life balance is something that we all face, men and women. I do think that there is more conversation now about sharing the load, the actual tasks that have to be done every single day, but also like the mental load. That is a very important thing. You know, it's really nice to be able to be like, I'm tired today and, you know, I didn't sleep much last night or I worked really late and I don't have to worry about getting up in the morning with my kids. Even if I want to, Ryan will be there to make sure that they get off to school. And that's just part of our shared reality. But asking a woman, how do you do it all? You should also be asking the man the same question because they're missing out on stuff too. But I will also say this, anyone that says that they have work-life balance nailed is freaking lying. No one has it perfect because in order for me to be great at my job, in order for me to be on this conversation right now, I can hear my kids in the room next to me. I have to work tonight. So me devoting myself to this for the hour means an hour I don't get them when they're home on a Sunday afternoon. But those are conversations where you're like, is it worth it to do it for this? Um, and at the end of the day, there are things that I will ask myself about, like, did I do that right? Did I mess up that? Should I have been more present for this? And at the end of the day, I'm not going to be perfect because in order for me to be really great at my job, it means that I'm going to have to be a little less great in other areas. And if I'm momming to an extent that it's like I'm being the best mom that I possibly can, I'm probably not paying attention to work. So there's always a push and a pull. And I think that the conversation isn't about balance. The conversation should actually be more about what's feeding you, what's feeding your soul. And if you can go to bed at the end of the night and have the parts of your world be in balance for what it means to you, then you're fine. It's sort of like the same concept of having it all. Just don't think of having it all because you can't have it all, but you can have your all. And so whatever that means to you, you know what I mean? Like whatever your all means to you, then that's it. Stop trying to have it all, just have your all.
Okay, I'm gonna cry about that. That was I have to write it down. No, I'm not gonna write it down. So think about your if anyone has questions, you can raise your hand. But I want to ask this question. I want you to think about what would you how do you see your roles influencing the game beyond wins, losses, beyond anything? How do you see your role and how does it influence what you're doing? How does it influence women around you, men around you? And you think about through culture, community, or innovation. I mean, I love math, Alisha, but I would never, ever want to do finance. I'm not a financy person. So you
Great.
inspire me.
Oh, thanks. A lot of people always like in the organization, like on ticket team or anybody, they're always like, I don't know how you do that. I'm the Excel go-to person in the office. Everybody always comes to me if they have Excel questions. But yeah, I would say like, like that I think also is like another more like stereotype of like, girls maybe not necessarily being as good at math or numbers or any of that. So I like would hope that, them seeing me doing that finance in sports and stuff would inspire other people to want to do the same and, you know, and go maybe a route that's not traditional for some people and, you know, try to do it that way.
Yo, the Browns have scored 10 points in the last 37 seconds. Let's talk about priorities here. Green Bay is now tied.
So back to the question. So how would you want to influence or inspire those, whether it's culturally or community or any kind of innovative things? Think about how will you influence or inspire the sport or the world that you have this opportunity. And I know you've talked a lot, Nicole, about that's actually it's knowing your voice.
I don't really know if like that's the innovation side is so far out of my reach, my zone, that I'm not really even sure I'm capable of answering that question. It's just not part of what I do. There's an entire I don't do the stats. There's a team that does that. When we do stats and information, there's literally a stats and information team that provide that for us, and then we tweak it and put it into words and you know, whatever. I'm not qualified to answer that. Hanna, Alisha, go ahead.
That next question is my question I was going to ask, so don't answer that one yet. But answer the one I just asked you.
I think for me, it's like getting out into the schools and kind of telling people like what I do and kind of just raising awareness of like, okay, what does the assistant general manager of a summer college baseball team do during the 9 months of off season that you guys aren't playing? Kind of just getting them to understand that it's not just I'm not just working game days and that's it. Yeah, I work game days, but I'm not just there for just the game. I'm there from at least 8:30 until maybe midnight. Kind of depends on the day. So kind of just going around to different classes like yours even and coming in to visit and kind of talk about those and just kind of sharing what worked for me, my experience, and hopefully maybe it resonates with somebody enough so that they want to go in and maybe I inspire them to do something every once in a while. But that's kind of the hope is that's of what I do in the community.
And also a little bit similar to Hanna, like speaking with classes, and even whenever I'm handing out the POS systems for the game day teammates, a lot of them will ask questions about it, like, what do you do here? And a lot of them are in high school and college students that work our game days for us. So really talking to them about what we do, who we are, what opportunities there are for them, because a lot of them want to continue to like see about an internship opportunity or different stuff like that. So kind of just letting them know about the different opportunities that we have and how that they can take the next steps into their career in sports.
I do think it's worth like reminding people too that there are no shortcuts. A lot of people will think that, oh, I graduated college, now I want to do X, and X is usually like the dream job. You don't just graduate school and go straight to the dream job. There are potholes and there are different roads and there are different paths. And what worked for me might not work for you, but you may find your own route to get to where you want to be. The bottom line is that you still have to take those roads. You still have to put in the work, you still have to put in the effort, you still have to make mistakes, you still have to miss out on things, you still have to make sacrifices, you still have to work hard. And I do think that that is worth remembering. Like you might look at, let's say me, I've been on sports, just SportsCenter now the last 11 years. Well, yeah, that was the last 11 years, but go 15 years before that. What was I doing then? You know, where was I working then? I worked at several places in local news, and I worked holidays and Christmas and all of those things. So I put in the work to get to the point where I am now. I didn't just wake up one morning and they're like, "Hey, let's do SportsCenter now." That's not it.
So what wisdom do you kind of goes with the advice? I like wisdom. What wisdom would you give to young girls about daring to be different, about taking risks? What do you want your legacy to be?
I don't want, let's just say I'm talking to my kid. I don't want them to look at what I do and think that it is different. And I think that that's what I want is for young people, no matter if they're boys or girls, to grow up and realize that it doesn't matter what they want to be. It doesn't matter their makeup. If they want to do it, they can do it. They just have to put in the work to do it. I don't think it should be considered a risk to be a woman in sports in any capacity, whether that is behind the scenes, in front of a camera, on the medical side of things. Like, it's not a risk. It's just what you wanted to do with your life. And if it's worth it to you, then do it. I don't care if you're a boy. I don't care if you're a girl. Just do it. Put in the work and do it.
Thank you. Alisha, Hanna.
Also going off that, I would say like, also kind of going off of what we were just talking about as well, just taking the risk of trying different things. Because like a lot, at first I was kind of like, you can't maybe just get your dream job right off the bat, and you may get an opportunity that's not necessarily what you want to do. But I think it would be like, it's a good idea to try stuff out, figure out, you may like end up liking it a lot and want to go that route instead, or maybe you don't like it, and try something else instead. But I think getting experience also in a lot of different aspects helps as well, especially like working in the finance side of things. I have a hand in like almost every department, which really helps to like understand how the whole organization works. So I think really getting that knowledge of different departments and different aspects of the sports world, or any other, place that you want to work, is really helpful and useful for even, your future jobs and positions that you may be in.
Hanna.
I think kind of just to relate to what Alicia said. So, obviously just like encouraging people to try new things, because what's the worst that's going to happen if you try something? Okay, you don't end up liking it, find the new interest and maybe try something with that. Um, I think the other advice is to not, oh, I don't know how to phrase this, but to know that you know your stuff, and be like just growing confidence. If you know every single player from the Chicago Bears history, great. You know their blood type, even better. But being confident in the information that is definitely advice that I push 100 times. Now that I've been in the Northwoods League for a few years too, I have learned so much that I got very lucky to learn as much as I have, really. But you know, giving kids opportunities to be confident too, is something that I find super important. That's why I started my reading program a couple years ago too, um, to, get kids more confident in reading. And then now they're confident in reading and they're doing a pregame parade on the fields, high-fiving all the players, and they feel great and they're super happy to be there. So creating environments for kids to be encouraged, is something that's very important to me specifically. So that's kind of the way that I do it as of right now.
Thank you.
It's
Go
okay
ahead.
to bet on yourself. Like, you should be betting on yourself, because if you're not betting on yourself, why would anyone else bet on you? So have the confidence. All that goes back to confidence. Have the confidence in what you want and what you know, and take the risk. Even if it on paper doesn't make sense, take the risk, because you don't know what opportunities are going to come out of it. I can look back at various times in my career and think, did it make sense for me to be a sideline reporter for the IndyCar series back in 2004 when I knew nothing about racing? No, it didn't. But that was an opportunity that was presented to me, and I took it, and I made the most of it. Even if I also made mistakes along the way, I made the most of it. And then that opportunity turned into other opportunities, into other opportunities, into other opportunities. And it was because I bet on myself. So bet on yourself. Have that confidence.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you very much. I love the wisdom, putting in the work, taking the risk, try different things, because what's the worst thing that can happen, right? Know that you know it. I think these are all like really great words of wisdom that I think help to share to those listening, share to those that we get to influence and inspire in our day-to-days. I want to thank you, Nicole, Hanna, and Alisha, for your work, for your wisdom and for your courage and taking the risk to join us here today, even though it's in the middle of a Cubs game and getting to be the Bears game soon and all the others. So thank you very much. So I will hand it back
everyone.
to.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, so thank you so much. That was another great panel, another great aspect of our entire weekend. And what a great way to close everything off with that. It was beautifully done and just reinforces everything we've heard all weekend. So I want to simply say thank you to everyone who has shared with us this weekend. We've learned so much on so many different fronts, met so many, as always, renewed and met new people. Want to just reiterate our thanks to SABR, the IWBC, and to Rockford University for all the support they give us each and every year for all of this, and to thank the incredible group that helps put this together, which is Marlene, Kat, Kathy, Catherine, and Jessica. I can't tell you how much fun it is to work with all of them. It's a great crew to put, and so just appreciate. But most importantly, we aren't here without all of you. And so the biggest thank you goes to each and every one of you for coming out and hanging out with us all weekend. It's a long, but it's so worth it. And the things we walk away with, the knowledge, the ideas, the community, really, 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 really appreciate each and every one of you. And so just want to say thank you so much to everybody.